In this video, I want to take a look at container fields in the FileMaker platform. I also want to address the issue of remote or externally stored containers, which is a really cool feature. So first off, what's a container field? So obviously we already have text and number fields and date and time fields, and those are all pretty straightforward. A container field is really a box that can store a single file. The file can be any kind of document. In FM Starting Point, container fields are all over the place. At a very rudimentary level, people use them to store photographs, like in a contact database. Now, while storing photos is cool, what people really like to store in business are contracts, scans of paperwork, scans of invoices or approvals, things like that. Business-related documents. That's where this really comes in handy. And of course, since you're attaching a container to a project in FileMaker, like an FM Starting Point, then the documents are attached to that specific record so things don't get lost. This is super cool. And pretty much every customer that I know uses this to some degree. Now, just to be clear, you can store PDFs in container fields, Word files, Excel files, audio files, even movies. But once again, in the business world, we're mostly seeing scanned PDFs. It's probably the number one thing, and then Word and Excel documents behind that. Now, when you create a container field in FileMaker, the default behavior is that the contents of the container is saved within the FileMaker file. And of course, this would make sense, right? All the other fields that we create, the data is saved in the file, right? Duh. So that makes sense. However, if you're putting a lot of images, a lot of large scanned documents, big PDFs, even movies, that's going to cause your FileMaker file to grow rapidly and frankly bloat. Users will often add new documents, PDFs, Word files, and their FileMaker file starts to rapidly grow. FileMaker files can easily become multiple gigabytes in size. And this is a problem that adversely affects the performance of your custom application. FileMaker Server and FileMaker Cloud work hard to make the backups run as fast as possible, but this large bulk of container data can slow the server down. There's lots of good reasons to keep a FileMaker file as small and as nimble as possible and not bloat the file with a lot of digital documents. So the ideal situation is that FileMaker files stay small and nimble. This helps performance across the board. This also makes our backups on FileMaker Server or FileMaker Cloud run very fast. So the idea is that we really need to get all the large container data that's normally stored inside the file to be moved outside the actual FileMaker file. This greatly improves the performance of our FileMaker custom application. To allow us to save our container data externally out of FileMaker and do it kind of automatically so we don't have to worry about it, the engineers at FileMaker created the ability to store containers externally. Now, you'll hear me refer to this frequently as remote containers or containers with external or remote storage. So here I have a container field, and I can click the options right here, and I can specify under the storage tab that the data is stored externally from the FileMaker file itself. Now I can select either secure storage, where the external files are encrypted, or for less important documents, you could potentially select open storage. And so if you do open storage, you actually have to manage the path of where the document is saved. Now I have a recommendation at this point. You might think that you don't need to use encrypted storage. And as a general rule, I could understand that because there's some things that are just not important, maybe family photos or something low priority. Maybe you have recipes that you're saving in your database. If you have a PDF of the recipe, you don't need that encrypted. Here's why you want to use encryption. If you turn the encryption on, FileMaker will organize and manage for you entirely where these external documents are saved. Now, this is a little bit technical, but in this storage folder where you're going to store your documents, if you select the encrypted option, it's going to create a large number of subfolders in there and bury bits of the encrypted document in a number of places. You don't have to worry about that. FileMaker handles that all automatically. However, if you select open storage, then you are going to end up saving the document into one directory, okay? And if you have 5 or 10 or 100 documents, that's fine. Here's the problem. And this is not a FileMaker problem. This is an operating system problem. Mac computers, Windows computers, pretty much all computers do not like to stick thousands and thousands of files into a single directory. right? Or a single folder. Imagine that you have PDFs and you have a single folder. If you stick 2 or 3 or 4,000 of these documents into a single folder, the operating system is going to have a hard time managing that. It's the way these operating systems are created. Now, if you created 4,000 folders and then saved each document into one of the separate folders, doing that is okay. So the critical operating system issue here that you need to be aware of, once again, this is a little technical and I apologize, but you want to know why I say what I say. So basically, if you do the encrypted storage, FileMaker is going to create a raft of subdirectories and bury the document in there. This keeps the performance at the operating system level going well. If you use open storage, then it's going to be up to you to try to manage that you don't stick more than 2,000 or 3,000 documents in a single directory. I can assure you that 99% of your FileMaker users are not going to have any clue about this issue. So in order to keep yourself out of trouble, just select the encrypted storage. So in the case of this demo where I would normally have a single FileMaker file here and the images would be contained inside, potentially making this a very large FileMaker file, FileMaker has now created a folder external which contains all the supporting digital documents that are automatically connected to that container field. I can actually open up this folder here because I've selected encryption on my storage status. I open these up and it's kind of a mess and the data is actually encrypted at a very high level. So it's very, very difficult to break or hack this probably without the assistance of a federal government somewhere with their supercomputers. So understand that the remote external storage works great on a locally run FileMaker file. It also works great on FileMaker Server and FileMaker Cloud, which means that all the clients that connect to those servers will still take advantage of this remote container capability. So now that we have these containers saved externally, I want to mention real quick another area where the performance has been made better by FileMaker, and that is the whole idea or area of thumbnailing. Now, the idea with thumbnailing is the same as it is on the internet, on Facebook, on anywhere. When you look at a screen in a web browser and you see like an image gallery, you're actually seeing little small images or thumbnails of the full-size image. That makes sense. And of course, everyone has been trained that if you click on the image, typically a larger version of the image will come up. Now, while that is handy, there are some important performance considerations under the scene that are going on here. And that is that when you look at a screen or a layout of thumbnails, your browser or your copy of FileMaker only had to download from the server little small thumbnail versions of the images. FileMaker creates the thumbnails for you automatically, okay? So whatever size of your container on screen, say you have a little small 1" by 2" container on the screen, and then you drop a large image onto that, FileMaker is going to create a thumbnail for you automatically. So when you display the layout, it's not going to download the 100 megabyte giant high resolution image. It's going to give you a cute little 30K or 40K thumbnail, which loads really quickly across the internet. So that's a capability that's now in FileMaker. So between the thumbnailing of the image and the external remote storage, you have a great deal of improved performance within the FileMaker platform for handling digital documents.